CNN is the fakest name in news, but MSNBC also has a decades-long history of deception, massive liberal bias, spreading conspiracy theories, and working for the military-industrial complex. Phil Donahue was fired by MSNBC in February 2003, less than a month before the invasion of Iraq, which he was very much against. And the network claimed that they canceled his show because of low ratings, but it was actually the highest rated show on MSNBC at the time. A leaked memo later revealed that he was a difficult face for NBC in a time of war, thus confirming he was fired for opposing the planned invasion of Iraq. Years later, he said this about the situation.
The biggest lesson, I think, is how corporate media shapes our opinions and our coverage. This was a decision, my decision, the decision to release me, came from far above. This was not an assistant program director who decided to separate me from MSNBC. They were terrified of the anti-war voice, and that is not an overstatement. Anti-war voices were not popular. And if you're General Electric, you certainly don't want an anti-war voice on a cable channel that you own. Donald Rumsfeld's your biggest customer.
General Electric was the co-owner of MSNBC at the time, and GE is a major manufacturer of military products, by the way, and Donald Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense back then. While CNN is a cesspool of hate and conspiracy theories aimed at Republicans, MSNBC has focused their hatred on a subset of the Republican Party, white people. Joy Reid, who is obviously a black supremacist, along with her merry band of misfit black identity extremists, spew the most vile hatred that can be heard on all of cable news.
White men continue to pose the biggest threat to Americans every single day. It's been documented and verified.
The President of the United States is a white nationalist. He is a racist. Everything that comes out of his mouth is either xenophobic, homophobic, transphobic, or racist.
Yeah, I think that's a fair description. Also liar, monster, white nationalist, incompetent, unhinged. We have a whole SAT worth of vocabulary words that could describe this president.
For some, the word Trump is becoming a modern-day swastika.
Let's Go Brandon isn't about what you feel about supply chain issues and gas. It is the cry of insurrectionists. It is the cry of people who want to violently take over this country and oppress anyone who is not like them.
The majority of white people are in favor of this kind of violence.
What I did wrong in 2016 is I overestimated white people. I didn't think white people would put him in office.
This is not the party of Lincoln, a party of Nixon, or even a party of Reagan. This is the party of D.W. Griffith. This is the party of the KKK and the party of Trump, and it has nothing to do with partisan politics.
We can no longer say Trump's the bad guy. If you vote for Trump, you're the bad guy. If you vote for Trump, then you, the voter, you, not Donald Trump, are standing at the border like Nazis, going, you here, you here. And I think we now have to flip it, and it's a given the evilness of Donald Trump. But if you vote, you can no longer separate yourself. You can't say, well, he's okay, but.
We're going to see if this reign lasts for 30 days, or 2 years, or 1,000-year Reich.
MSNBC called Kyle Rittenhouse a white supremacist, even after the trial, when all the evidence proved that he acted in self-defense.
I find these people disgusting, Ellie. I'm disgusted at what I'm seeing. It's not just this trial, it's other trials, but this in particular, the fact that white supremacists roam the halls of Congress freely and celebrate this little murderous white supremacist, and the fact that he gets to walk the streets freely, it lets you know these people have access to instituting laws. They represent the legislative branch of this country. What are we to make of that?
Miles Eric Dyson, another regular contributor, is so delusional, he thinks that Kanye West is a white supremacist.
This is white supremacy by ventriloquism. A black mouth is moving, but white racist ideals are flowing from Kanye West's mouth. Kanye West is engaging in one of the most nefarious practices yet. A black body and brain are the warehouse for the articulation and expression of anti-black sentiments that have been chin-checked by people with far more rigorous credentials.
The channel and their entire lineup of hosts and contributors are like black supremacist shock jocks, which on one level can be entertaining, but there are countless countless unhinged people in the audience who internalize the verbal diarrhea coming from the network and actually take it seriously. Before the 2016 election season began, MSNBC's viewership was at historic lows, with their primetime shows getting between 25,000 to only 100,000 viewers in their demo audience. The demo audience, by the way, is the key demographic that advertisers are marketing to. The first quarter of 2015, MSNBC averaged only 300,000 total viewers during the day. And by the fourth quarter, they barely had 500,000 total viewers during prime time. With Trump's election victory in 2016 and liberals getting whipped up into a frenzy hoping to find some dirt on him that would get him immediately impeached, MSNBC's viewership dramatically increased as the network became more radical with their anti-Trump agenda. The primary face of MSNBC is Rachel Maddow, whose convoluted ramblings appear to be unprepared streams of consciousness she just comes up with off the top of her head once she's seated at her desk, but somehow her viewers are entertained by her scatterbrained diatribe.
Thanks for being with us tonight. Keep us apprised, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's all right. I answered to both. It's actually quite convenient in really unexpected places.
Like CNN, MSNBC grasps at straws to create artificial outrage over minor things, a business model that often leaves them looking ridiculous.
Stop the hammering. Stop the hammering out there. Who's got a hammer? Where is it? Where's the hammer?
Since Donald Trump wouldn't release his tax returns during the 2016 presidential campaign, which is somewhat customary for candidates, the Democrats fixated on them, thinking that they must contain connections to Russia or he somehow must have weaseled out of paying any taxes at all. Then 2 months into the Trump administration, Rachel Maddow tweeted that she was about to reveal a bombshell on her show. She claimed to have obtained a copy of his tax returns, and a countdown clock was put on the screen, ticking down to the big moment when he would be exposed. When her show went to air, she began rambling on and on for 18 minutes without actually showing them or even saying what was in them. The network then went to a commercial break, and when the show returned, she revealed 2 pages of his 2005 returns, which showed that he paid $38 million in taxes that year. That's it. No bombshell, no controversial revelations, no nothing. In fact, they actually debunked rumors that he hadn't paid any taxes for nearly 2 decades, as had been previously claimed. There hadn't been such an overhyped television event since Geraldo Rivera opened Al Capone's vault live on TV in 1986 to find absolutely nothing. And Rachel Maddow became the laughingstock of the internet and late night talk shows. Of course, it's not just Rachel Maddow. The other hosts on MSNBC all comprise what is basically a conspiracy carnival on cable. After President Trump launched a few Tomahawk missiles and destroyed a Syrian airfield in response to Bashar al-Assad allegedly killing rebels with chemical weapons, MSNBC's Lawrence O'Donnell dedicated his opening monologue to his conspiracy theory that Vladimir Putin must have ordered Assad to launch the supposed chemical attack to provoke President Trump into a military response to distract the media and change the subject from the Russian influence on the election.
Unless Vladimir Putin said, I have an idea. Go ahead. Do a small chemical attack. Nothing like the big ones you've done in the past. Just big enough to attract media attention so that my friend in the White House will see it on TV. And then Donald Trump can fire some missiles at Syria that'll do no real damage, and then the American news media will change the subject from Russian influence in the Trump campaign and the Trump transition and the Trump White House. It's perfect. That is the world that Donald Trump has given us. That is the range of possibility Donald Trump has given us.
Nothing is too crazy for MSNBC. One of the regular panelists, Donnie Deutsch, actually issued a serious fight challenge to President Trump during one segment, saying this.
Once again, I'm going to elevate the conversation. Donald, if you're watching, we're from Queens. I'll meet you in the schoolyard, brother. You need to be schooled.
Okay.
No, I'm serious. This is where this needs.
Can you put the sunglasses back?
No. He's a coward. He's a coward.
We want to take it out of the school.
I don't want to.
Well, I do.
Okay,
He wasn't fired or even suspended, proving that MSNBC endorses threats of violence against President Trump. Host Mika Brzezinski once decried Trump's influence on Twitter, saying, this.
The dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media. He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah. That's our job, she says. Well, it's my job to expose you Operation Mockingbird assets. And stay tuned because there's plenty more to come in this video. But real quick, subscribe to my channel if you're new here because you're not going to find analysis and information like this anywhere else. Years after working for MSNBC as a host, Crystal Ball, yes, that's her name, later revealed that after she gave a monologue criticizing Hillary Clinton when Hillary was gearing up for her 2016 presidential campaign, she got called into her boss's office and told that if she's planning to do another monologue critical of Hillary, that she has to get it approved by the higher-ups first.
Shortly before I was let go, I did a monologue when Hillary Clinton was building up to run for president. It was back in 2014, so this was early on. And I did this whole thing that was like, she's sold out to Wall Street, people are gonna hate this lady, she's like the terrible candidate for the moment, please don't run. Afterwards, I get pulled into an office and, great monologue, everything's fine, but next time you do any commentary on Hillary Clinton, it has to get approved by the president of the network. Yeah, so that's the way that it works. That's a very blatant example, but oftentimes people know where the boundaries are. They know what they're allowed to say, and so they don't need that direct intervention of censorship. And also, by the way, these people, most of them in, cable news, they're not really there because they're talented. They're there because they're reliable purveyors of whatever it is that network wants to purvey. So that's ultimately why they get the job. And they understand the parameters of the task. When Chris Matthews was a host on the network, he said that President Trump's inauguration in 2017 was Hitlerian, meaning it reminded him of an Adolf Hitler rally. And he compared Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner to Saddam Hussein's murderous sons Uday and Qusay.
Uday and Qusay working for Saddam Hussein. You couldn't go to a restaurant and have eye contact with one of those guys without getting killed. These people are really powerful. Imagine getting into a fight in the office with Jared or Ivanka. They have enormous power, and they're always going to be there.
This is what I worry about for other people in the White House. Ivanka Trump has been described as her father's eyes and ears on the ground. That's a little scary if you're just a regular White House staffer. Chris Matthews is the same guy who said that he got a thrill up his leg from hearing Barack Obama speak, as you may recall.
The feeling most people get when they hear Barack Obama's speech, I felt this thrill going up my leg. I mean, I don't have that too often.
Steady.
No, seriously, it's a dramatic event.
After a terrorist ran down pedestrians using a van on the London Bridge in England, killing 8 people and injuring 48, MSNBC host Thomas Roberts said this.
I just want to ask you, the president doesn't want us to be politically correct, right? So let's not be PC about this. Is the president trying to provoke a domestic terrorist attack with this Twitter rant, because only to prove himself right?
Such an egregious allegation should have put an end to someone's career in the television news business, but these kinds of unhinged statements are a common occurrence on the network. Anchor Katie Tur insinuated that she was concerned Trump may have journalists he doesn't like assassinated.
What is your sense of why this president is going above and beyond, bending over backwards, if you will, to stay away from criticizing the Russian president and to almost give him an excuse? As we know, there's, since 2000, been a couple dozen suspicious deaths of journalists in Russia who came out against the government there. Donald Trump has made no secret about going after journalists and his distaste for any news that doesn't agree with him here. Do you find that this is a dangerous path he is heading down?
The fact that Katie Tur was even put on air is a prime example of MSNBC's low standards and the poor quality talent pool they have to work with. During an interview with Republican Congressman Francis Rooney of Florida, when Tur was again grasping at straws to keep the Trump-Russia conspiracy theory circulating, Rooney completely embarrassed her, saying this.
I think it was Obama that leaned over to Putin and said, I'll have a little more flexibility to give you what you want after the re-election.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're referring to, Congressman.
Remember when he leaned over at a panel discussion or at a meeting and he said, I'll have more flexibility after the election. No one really ever pushed the president on what he meant by that, but I can only assume for a thug like Putin that it would embolden him.
Congressman Francis Rooney, Republican of Florida, thank you so much for joining me, and happy President's Day to you, sir.
Any journalist should have known what he was talking about, since it was a pretty stunning exchange to have been caught on tape.
In South Korea this morning, President Obama may have been a little too honest with another world leader, and those words with Russia's outgoing president were caught on tape.
My last election, yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah. I understand. I trusted this relationship to let him understand.
And what Obama meant was that he didn't want to lose votes in his bid for re-election, so he had to wait until after his election to do what he really wanted to do with Russia.
You're a very naive person.
The Pew Research says that there are, for immigrants on the whole,
Come on, try getting it out. Try getting it out.
I'll get it out.
I mean, I don't know if you're going to put this on television, but you don't even know what you're talking about.
MSNBC hasn't gotten as much heat as CNN since the fake news backlash began because it's an admitted liberal network, whereas CNN claims to be impartial. Not to mention they still use their trademark slogan, the most trusted name in news, despite their reputation turning into shambles in the Trump era. And now in the cable news business, there is a ton of competition. It's not just CNN and MSNBC and Fox News. There are new channels who have thrown their hat in the ring, like Newsy, News Nation, TND, the National Desk, which is part of the Sinclair Broadcast Group, and of course Newsmax, a primary competitor to Fox, along with OAN, and even The First TV, which now airs on DirecTV. Many years ago, I could have sold out to any of these supposed conservative news networks, but I prefer to remain 100% independent. So to support my work, join my locals community by clicking the link in the description below. And if you like my more serious monologues like this, then you'll love reading my book. So order The True Story of Fake News, How Mainstream Media Manipulates Millions, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. My books are a lot more in-depth and hardcore than my videos, which I have to tone down a bit for obvious reasons. So head on over to Amazon.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.